Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're looking at some of the weirdest and most fantastical weapons in one of gaming's longest running franchises, Final Fantasy.
A lot of fiends here, y'all.
Don't talk like that.
Dice, Final Fantasy X-2.
And the winner of the first Sphere Break tournament is... High Summoner Yuna!
Heading into any battle in a Final Fantasy game and achieving victory is a roll of the dice. So why not try your luck with Final Fantasy X-2's Lady Luck skill? With a simple cast of the die, players have the chance to do critical damage during their encounters, or, just like in D&D, roll a nat 1 and end up on the receiving end of that critical damage. Watching Yuna, Riku, or Pain toss comically oversized dice in front of the enemy to determine how much punishment to deal out remains a standout moment in a game that already took the series in a decidedly more lighthearted direction.
Thank you.
Forks, Final Fantasy IX. Queena's character was always a bit odd. Not only could you miss recruiting the food-obsessed Q, their reason for joining your party is only to travel the world and try more delicious foods besides frogs. Queena's special ability is Eat, in which once an enemy's health is low enough, she will consume them and learn their abilities. Likewise, along with her obsession, their main weapon of choice is an oversized fork to consume anything unlucky enough to get in their way when their stomach grumbles. Queena's trance ability is even Cook, which must be doubly horrifying for anything on the menu seeing Quina casually strolling towards them with so much insatiable hunger that they brought their own utensils. Paintbrushes, Final Fantasy VI. Art imitates life, and that is no better personified than with Realm's paintbrushes in Final Fantasy VI. While the pen might not be mightier than the sword in the Final Fantasy franchise, it's Realm's ability to draw copies of whatever enemy the party is facing down to create a copy to fight on their side that makes her abilities so powerful. The stronger the enemy, the stronger her copy. Realm's painting powers aren't the only tool in her arsenal, as she's quite a powerful magic user anyways. But for this child to enter the fray with nothing but a paintbrush and absolutely dominate is something we don't think any casual player was expecting. Fabric, Final Fantasy Tactics. You can tell a lot about someone by the way they dress, and the dancer class in Final Fantasy Tactics has a style that can kill. While they are technically throwing rolls of fabric, they are surprisingly lethal, and can also be used to hold enemies in place, oftentimes an entire battlefield of foes tied up in the dancer's fabric. Their attacks might be some of the most unconventional within the Tactics game, but some have taken to building entire teams around the specific class, and taking out entire arenas like yesterday's laundry. Blitzballs, Final Fantasy X. Anyone who played dodgeball in school growing up will be familiar with just how devastating it can be taking a rubber ball to the face. And while Wakka's choice of weapon makes sense for his character, the sheer amount of control he seems to have over the thing is unreal. Not only can the Blitzball player create entire combos just hitting the ball over and over again, but he can almost supernaturally control how it spins and strikes enemies. You'd think with skills like these, he wouldn't even need Tidus to join his Blitzball league. Just as surprising is the sheer amount of different balls at his disposal, each complete with their own unique style, and some even have elemental damage buffs.
You wanna try that move one more time?
Souls, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. If you thought the fabric was an odd choice in the Tactics games, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance takes things a step further and lets you use the very souls of your enemies on the battlefield. Exclusive to the Morpher class, Morphers will capture the souls of deceased enemies from the battlefield and learn their abilities. Or players can have Hunters capture monsters, which the Morpher will in turn raise and care for. Morphers can transform into these monsters and then use their abilities in combat. It's like a really dark version of Pokemon. The Morpher class requires a lot of extra work, but using the very souls of your enemies in battle is just too metal to keep off this list. Dolls, Final Fantasy X.
What are you doing here? Didn't think we'd be able to handle it?
No, it's just...
We already talked about Wakka's odd weapon choice in Final Fantasy X, but we'd be remiss if we didn't at least touch on Lulu's, disturbing choice. As the team's Black Mage, Lulu's primary attacks revolve around her use of magic and elemental attacks. However, should she run out of MP, she'll be forced to rely on her melee, which is more likely to unsettle her enemies than cause any damage. Lulu can send her sentient dolls at her foes to give them a fluffy slap. While the dolls themselves are generally used to reinforce her already powerful magical abilities, the sight of one of her adorable dolls casually strolling over is a hilarious sight, unless you suffer from a fear of creepy dolls.
See, I told you she gets mad easy.
Cid's Mop, Final Fantasy VII. His quick wit and gruff attitude aren't the only thing he'll use to mop the floor with you. Cid is one of Final Fantasy VII's many straight-laced, no-nonsense characters, and in addition to being the pilot of the Highwind airship, he also acts as the game's Dragoon, typically sporting a long spear in each battle. This is what makes it even more confusing and hilarious to see this super serious foul-mouthed pilot stroll into battle with nothing but a mop. What's even more surprising is that it's actually a decent weapon, albeit one that's non-upgradable, but still watching Cid sweep foes off their feet is always a good time. The Cackstar, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade.
We got this!
Yuffie often seems to go out of her way to be a thorn in everyone's side, so why not put one there for real? Yuffie's arsenal already stands out amongst the rest of the familiar characters with her oversized shuriken, but cosplaying as a Moogle is only the beginning of her bizarre collection. The Cackstar is one of Yuffie's most powerful weapons and only available through DLC in Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, but it's more than worth it for its special ability that sees the Cackstar running around the battlefield and dealing massive damage to anything in its way. Cactuar are already one of the deadliest enemies in Final Fantasy VII, and you'll be happy to finally have one on your side.
You see that?
That's how ninjas do it.
Yep.
Angelo Cannon, Final Fantasy VIII. It's safe to say that Rinoa certainly has a dog in this fight. Like any good pupper, Rinoa's faithful companion Angelo will often accompany her into battle, and should the moment arise, launch an attack with extreme prejudice. However, simply having her canine companion fighting at her side isn't enough for those truly overpowered baddies. In these instances, Angelo will attach itself to Rinoa's arm and launch directly at the enemy with all the power of a true laser-guided missile. This doesn't end with a simple headbutt either. No, Angelo explodes on impact, causing devastating damage to any foe in the vicinity. Out of all the weapons in the series, this is without a doubt the one that makes the least amount of sense. No dogs were harmed in the making of this video. What weird weapon would you like to see in a Final Fantasy game? Let us know down in the comments. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.